Well, good evening, everyone. This is Dan Sebring. I'm very proud to be the principal at Normandy. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Really appreciate your time. Hope that you're all having a wonderful evening. It's such beautiful weather. We finally have it. It's back, and boy, is it nice to see the sunshine again. But thank you again for taking the time to join us this evening. We will go ahead and get started. Looks like we are live, and if you are seeing me, if you're wondering what is behind me, that is a picture of the Normandy fish tank. So I hope that's a little taste of Normandy for all of you. So let's go ahead and get going. Joining me here this evening, I'm very excited to have our superintendent, Mrs. Hausman is here. And I'm Dan Sebring. We also have Mrs. Basel, our school counselor. We have our one of our second grade teachers, Mrs. Hart, and several first grade teachers, Mrs. McCarn, Mrs. Bolton, Mrs. Hack, and then also one of our intervention specialists, Mrs. Reese. And then thank you to our Normandy PTA president, Jen Mason, for her participation a little bit later in this evening. She'll be asking us some of the questions that were submitted to her. So without any further ado, I wanted to just give an opportunity for Mrs. Hausman, our superintendent, just to say hi and say a few words. Mrs. Hausman.
Thank you, Mr. Sebring, and I want to thank our panel for being here tonight. It's so kind of you to spend this time with our families. I agree, Mr. Sebring. It was wonderful to be able to go out on the front porch tonight for a little bit before our meeting tonight. Thank you so much to our parents and our students and our staff and faculty. Everyone's been working so hard, coming together to persevere through this phase of e-learning. I am attending community chats where hosts or hostesses are inviting community friends and families to join in and just talk to me about how things are going, and I share some feedback. These meetings are really helping me and our team work on shaping what's happening in the future. We continue to wait for guidance about specifics, but please know that we're working knowing that as soon as we can get our students back to school, because we miss them terribly, that we know that's going to help support our children with learning and all of us. I do thank everyone for all that we're trying to do, and we're all working very hard and doing our best. I also want to acknowledge the Board of Education. They've been extremely supportive. They've been attending the community chats with me. And so we are here if we can help in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausman. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. Let's go ahead and get going. We have just a quick overview of our topics for the evening. We want to cover a little bit of our transition to e-learning, feedback and report cards, academic teams and curriculum planning, supporting our students' social emotional needs, special education support services, scheduling and placement, and then we have several responses just to some parent topics that have come up. So we do appreciate the opportunity. And the first part of tonight will just be us giving kind of a formal presentation through some slides. And then the rest of us, after that, we will be on the screen to answer some questions. We will kind of round robin the responses a little bit. So let's keep moving. I thought before we get to the slides, I can't resist just one more opportunity to talk about Normandy's Big Three. If you have seen me on morning announcements, you know that I address these every single day with the students. So Normandy's Big Three: be respectful, act safely. Remember, you and I can accept challenges, and that is how we are all a part of One Rocket Nation. And I think that really is the message during this difficult time, that we're all together. We're all part of One Rocket Nation in Bay Village. And we thank you all for accepting the challenge of this new environment that we are in. So let's keep moving. Our first presenter. Actually, it's me. That's right. So I just wanted to actually say a couple other things that I just want to express my appreciation to all of the families out there and how well you have all embraced this change, even though it has been very, very difficult. I also want to express my appreciation to our teachers because they have absolutely responded in an amazing way, in my opinion. So I'm just going to read this to you. You know, we have Normandy and Bay Village. We have used Google tools for many years, and we have been at very different levels of implementation depending on the teacher in the classroom. And but I can tell you that every teacher at Normandy has accepted the challenge of becoming an expert in Clever, Google Slides, Seesaw, and Google Classroom for second grade. I couldn't be more proud of our staff during this time in this challenge. They're just taking it in a head-on fashion, just to streamline everything that we are doing and try to make learning meaningful to your students during this very new way of learning and teaching. So I thank the teachers for their efforts. I can tell you that before spring break, the teachers, and during spring break, the teachers spent a lot of time collaborating just to kind of narrow in on what the essential learning would be for the rest of the year. But they were also quickly ramping up on a steep learning curve their expertise in Google Classroom for second grade, and Clever for everyone, and Seesaw for kindergarten and first grade. And then also just increasing proficiency and efficiency in Google Slides and Docs. And I just wanted to acknowledge that I would say we have 100% of Normandy teachers that are utilizing Clever, Seesaw, Google Classroom at a really high level. I'm super impressed with the skill that they have brought to that. All right. Let's go ahead and move to the next topic here. Apologize, I'm having a little technical difficulty on my side here. The next, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Hack, one of our first grade teachers, who has a little bit to say about feedback to students and their learning, and report cards. And then Mrs. McCarn will also join in. Mrs. Hack.
Parents. So the teachers are giving weekly feedback on assignments that they're turning into Google Classroom or Seesaw. And I'm sure that you have been seeing a lot of that come through already. At the end of the first 3 weeks of the phase 2 e-learning, which wrapped up just on May 8th, the teachers will be entering one comment in PowerSchool for math and one comment in PowerSchool for language arts. And the comments that the teacher makes will just indicate your child's progress from those first 3 weeks of e-learning. At the end of the last 3 weeks of the phase 2 e-learning, teachers will be leaving comments for you on your child's progress. And these comments will be found on the back of your child's report card.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Your child then is going to receive their standard base grades on his or her report card for the second semester. So we're in that second semester now. But that will be for all the work that was completed up until and including March 12th, which was our last official day in school in the classroom. So they'll get a grade, their end of the year grades will be based on that work that they completed up to March 12th. So if by chance there is not a grade that has already been assigned to it by March 12th, an example would that be in first grade, we don't teach fractions until right now. We're teaching it right now with our kiddos. So that grade will be blank. Other areas that could be blank would be behavior grades, things like that too, would also be blank unless the teacher had put an assignment in at some point in time prior to March 12th. So these report cards then will be sent home via PowerSchool that you'll be able to access at the end of the school. So after, I'm assuming May 29th, which is our last official day of school. The special teachers, so art, gym, music, and Spanish, that your child will only receive a standard base grade for work that was completed up to March 12th, just like the rest of our classes that we've graded. They will not be receiving any kind of comment for their e-learning that they've been doing the whole time that we've been away from the classroom.
Okay. Next, I would like to introduce Mrs. Hart, who has just a quick overview of some of the work that our language arts and math teams have been doing. So Mrs. Hart.
I miss seeing the friends and families at Normandy, but thank you for joining us tonight. Grade level teams are working on lessons in language arts and math each day. And our learning is for kindergarten and first grade at Seesaw, and we're using the Clever. And for our second graders, we're using Google Classroom and Google Sides. We're also sharing a weekly lesson plan with daily assignments and checklists for parents. And the teachers have been going through our standards to make sure all of the essential learning is covered by the end of the year. We are still teaching these essential skills to the end of the school year, and starting next year, which I know some of you are concerned with, each teacher will get to know the students, and then from there we'll look at their abilities, and then we'll start from there. We're not going to leave any gaps. We're going to fill it in as we need to. We just want to thank you for your hard work. I know it's hard, to be parents and to also be teachers, and we are really, really appreciative that you are being patient with us as we are continuously refining our Google Classroom, Seesaw, and our Clever Classroom. And we're really trying to make learning as manageable for you as parents, as well as to make the kids independent. And we just want to thank you so much for your support and your partnership. So thank you.
Absolutely. And just thinking about, Mrs. Hart and all of the second grade students, this is just a particularly challenging time, because we have such joy at the end of our typical year, just saying goodbye to all of the students we've had for 3 years at Normandy. And I certainly miss that opportunity. Certainly some of the joy of this time of the year is absolutely missing right now. So thank you, Mrs. Hart. Really appreciate that. Let's keep moving. Next up, we have Mrs. Basel, who would like to talk a little bit about supporting our students while learning at home and their social emotional needs.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, parents. There are a couple of different ways that we can still support your family and your student with regards to their social emotional needs. Currently on an individual basis, you should find, and Mr. Sebring's Clever, you should find our e-learning activities and lessons. So these are filled with our mindfulness lessons that they would have been getting if they were in their classrooms, their weekly visits from me. You'll find some extra things in there, especially regarding with anxiety, and then also our second step curriculum. So that's a curriculum that I would use when I come in and visit your in the classroom. All of those are right there. Those are all very much extra as well. So I want you to focus on that core learning from the classroom. If that's all that you can do, do it. But if you're looking for something more to help your child, go ahead and head over there and check it out. A lot of them should recognize some of those activities because they were things that we would do every single day in the classroom. Also, on Mr. Sebring's Clever page, you'll find right next to it, morning announcements, there should be also a place where they can do their feelings check-in. So I've enjoyed monitoring that. We've been averaging about 80 to 90 a day of our students that are checking in. So I love finding that a lot of our families are finding a nice routine where they listen to their morning announcements, they head over and check in with the feeling check-in, and I look at each and every one of them. If your child indicates that they want to follow up from me, that just kind of looks like a first. I respond by reaching out to you as a parent, and we either go to a phone call or a Zoom meeting for one-to-one with that child to check in to see how they're doing. Also for family support, don't forget that family assistance Google survey went out. So if your family's needs change and you need to make sure that we can help you as far as with finances or food, then we can definitely work with you one-to-one to figure out what some options might be. That is confidential. The only person that reads those are myself and Stockfish, the counselor over at Westerly. I'm also available by phone consultation. So right there is listed my number. That is my new office number. So feel free to use that to reach out to me so we can talk one-to-one. I'm also available by email. My email is listed right there for email consultations as well. I've been working with a lot of families, and I will tell you that no two families are alike. I know we've heard that phrase that we're all in the same storm, which we are, but we're all riding it so very differently. And every family is so uniquely different in their needs, from finances to food, to helping their child learn, to managing their house, to working from home. There's so many differences. So we can definitely really help you figure out what that emotional piece, that guide will look like for your individual family. Also, we have an amazing intervention assistance team at Normandy. And all year long, teachers have been meeting, providing interventions, documenting that. That's not for nothing. All of our teachers have gathered all of that information. We've documented it so we can then pass it on to next year's teachers. So all of that is there. And like Mrs. Hart mentioned, we're ready to support your child when we come back and really kind of start wherever they are at that moment.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Basel. And thank you for all of your work behind the scenes there. I know you've enjoyed some of those fun little comments from students on the feelings check-in. So
I sure have. They make my day every day.
very good. Thank you. And next up, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Reese, one of our intervention specialists. She just has a quick update on special education and support services. Mrs. Reese.
Hello, Normandy families. Thank you for joining us today. All of our 3-year reevaluations, or ETRs, and our yearly IEP review meetings are continuing according to the expiration date of the IEP or ETR, and we're doing those virtually via Zoom meetings. Teachers and parents are all working together, and we're working hard to prioritize our goals and objectives for what is important to our individual students in light of the current circumstances. Our intervention specialists are providing a good faith effort to specialize instruction on a continuum, such as using office hours via Zoom, providing modifications to the curriculum, providing accommodations that are listed in the IEP, and working with our general education teachers and related service providers. Our related service providers, such as our speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists, are also working with students and families virtually. There's been no specific guidance regarding our extended school year services or any summer programs specifically, but we expect only remote learning will continue through the summer. We'll keep you updated. We miss all of you. We miss our students. We want to see your child continue to grow, and please know that we are here for you. Please reach out to us if there's anything we can do to help.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Reese. Appreciate the update. Let's go ahead and keep going. I know this is an important topic, certainly at this time of the year. We traditionally have we have a wonderful tradition at Normandy and Westerly called Move Up Day. So we are not going to be able to accomplish a traditional Move Up Day. So I wanted to just share a couple thoughts with you, but I do want to let you know that class placements are complete for kindergarten and first grade students. In other words, we know which teacher they are assigned to for next year for first or second grade. I can tell you we are very detail oriented in our approach to this. And I work with Mrs. Basel and every teacher with a tremendous amount of input and considering any parent input that we received along the way to make the best decision possible for assigning each individual child to a classroom. I take several things into account: teacher compatibility, needs and services, academics, behavioral needs, social emotional needs. We also look at peers that may be the best complement to your child's learning style. So there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into just thinking through every classroom, every learning environment. Even though we don't know a lot of what next year will look like yet, we are prepared to share your teacher assignments with you for next year. And we will do that on May 22nd. Current kindergarten and first grade students will receive their class placement through PowerSchool. I believe second grade families may be receiving it this week, but I can tell you that kindergarten and first grade Normandy families, May 22nd. So stay tuned for more directions on that. We will share with you a supply list for next year. There will be a brief letter from me, and preceding that, we will tell you how to access this information in PowerSchool. So then the last week of school, you will get a video or a greeting from your child's new classroom teacher prior to the summer starting. So stay tuned for that. I know that this is an important milestone for many students. We really believe it's important that students know their teacher before going into summer. So we want to make sure that we stick with that. So stay tuned on May 22nd. All right, Mrs. Bolton has an update for you. Here it is, Mrs. Bolton.
Thank you, Mr. Sebring, and thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We wanted to let you know that we are going to have a Bay School staff end of the year Wolf Road Wave. You might be asking, what does that mean? That is our Normandy and Westerly and middle school and high school staff will all be out on Wolf Road on the south side to wave to you. We hope that you will drive down Wolf Road on Tuesday, May 26th from 10 to 11. This is kind of our closure for our students and our staff. So we really hope that you can make it. We will not be having any social gatherings for the rest of the year. So sadly, the second grade party won't happen. But this way, we think would be a great way for our students to come on, drive down Wolf Road, see all their favorite teachers and staff, and just get a nice closure to the end of the school year. Normandy staff will be on Wolf Road by the Board of Education building. So we really hope that you guys can come join us on Tuesday, May 26th at 10. We look forward to it.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Bolton. So that is some new information that we are sharing with everyone tonight. Stay tuned, there will be more reminders and things like that, but we are excited to be able to do it's more of a processional. So we're calling it the Wolf Road Wave, just kind of as a fun way to bring some closure for some of the families, the students, and yes, for all of the staff as well. So at this point, I'll stop sharing my screen, and then we have, let's see here. Okay. I think we are all live here in our Brady Bunch view. Very nice. So I'd like to introduce Mrs. Jen Mason. She has served on our Normandy PTA for many years, and super sad for me that her youngest is a second grade student. And we are wrapping up the Normandy years for the Mason family. But Jen, thank you for all of your time and service to our staff, our students, and and all the Bay schools.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well. Go
Great.
for it.
Since everyone's already cried, I'm not going to make any emotional statements, but I miss everybody terribly, and this is a tough time. But I'm going to go through a few questions that I've been given from parents, and I'll have different individuals answer them, and we'll get through these. My first one I have is for Mr. Sebring. Is there consideration being given to ending the school year earlier than May 29th? Since we've largely met the standards and the teachers would get more time to plan for the fall.
Yeah, great question. And you may have heard there may be some other districts that have elected to do that. I can tell you that we are not going to be ending the school year early. We do need to continue to meet the state required hours. I can tell you that our district leadership team which is made up of administrators, teachers. We've been discussing options for incorporating some of these end of the year celebrations, activities that students and teachers that we always enjoy together. Like there's just the last week of school is always a joyful time where the academics do lighten up a little bit, and we get to do things like Olympic Day and Move Up Day and all those things. And I can tell you that we are still coming up with ways that we can encourage families to incorporate those ideas at home. We will also be planning a way for students to have some time with their current year teacher or their class from this current year. We're still figuring out ways to incorporate that at the beginning of next year, depending on how next year looks once we get there. I can tell you that we are not sure what that will look like at this point, but it is something that we are prioritizing. I can tell you that on May 20, the very last week of school, May 26, 27, 28, and 29, we are looking to put together some activities that families can do together to bring some closure to the year. and also have it feel a little bit like something we would normally do at Normandy. So this is including moving our Olympic Day or Field Day, which would have normally been May 22nd. We are moving that to the final week, and Mrs. Winton is working through some ideas to share with all of you. And that's just one example of what we hope to do. But the short answer is we are running, the school year will go as previously planned.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Next question will also be from Mr. Sebring. What about Chromebooks? Will we keep them all summer long or return them at the end of the school year?
Yep, great question. So we were thrilled to be able to get those out to you pretty early on in the process. It's been I know it's a really important part of everything that we have designed for your students at home. So I can tell you that we are asking you to please keep the Chromebooks, the chargers, keep those safe over the summer. We will work those in somehow into next year. So, but we are asking that you would keep those at home, keep them safe. If you don't plan to use it, that's okay. Just put it someplace safe and so that you know where to find it when the school year begins again. You're also welcome to continue accessing different learning opportunities for your students through the Chromebooks.
One more for you. I know you discussed a little bit about, we're not sure what's going to happen next year, if we're going to be in the schools or how we're going to be working, but I received a question. Has the district discussed grouping the kids next year? How would that work with parents working and or families with kids in multiple schools?
Yes, great question. There are many unknowns to start next year, but I can tell you that we are planning for many different scenarios. So we are currently planning multiple solutions to as many possible scenarios as we can think of. We continue to explore ways to have students spend time again with this year's teacher, but I can tell you that if we are in a model where it's necessary, then we will be looking to put students into cohorts or groups so that we can streamline a learning schedule that really aligns with their developmental needs as elementary, young elementary age students. So it is certainly a consideration that we're working on at this point.
Great, thank you. The next question is for Mrs. Bolton. Are summer activities such as the STEM camp, reading camp, etc., canceled this year?
Great question. Thanks for asking. No, they are not. What we're planning on doing is we are going to have an e-summer program, a STEM challenge program for all students in kindergarten to 12th grade. It's free of cost to parents. We strongly encourage that your student participates, and there will be more information to follow for that. But we are also actively working on our e-summer Wild Out Reading program. And although we will not be able to meet in person, we are trying to take advantage of finding virtual and hands-on activities that we can do with your child over the summer. So although we won't be, again, in person, we're trying to come up with ways to incorporate everything at home that you can do hands-on, so it's fun for your child while learning.
And I just had one other thing to throw in there. We will be keeping accelerated reader accessible. So as students continue to read, we think that's a nice way to continue to let them, see how well they're comprehending their stories, kind of keep track of their word count through the summer. So that's just one other piece that we think is really important to continue with this summer.
Okay, great, thank you. The next question is for Mrs. Hart. This is a popular question. When can students expect to receive their yearbooks?
Very good question. Obviously, with the COVID-19 situation, Ripco has experienced some delays with their printing. It's not going to press till June 1st. So they're planning to arrange some details to get those out to you in the fall. And we'll work that out with each building to coordinate a plan to get the yearbooks to your child. I know it's important for the families and for your child to get those. We know as well, but obviously with the delay, we'll work out some type of distribution. So be looking out for that in the fall with your building principal.
Yep. And I just wanted to emphasize that, yeah, we just learned that they are going to press June 1st. So thanks for mentioning that.
Are we covering I had a question about the move up day, but did we cover the move up day question or?
Yeah, a little bit in the beginning on one of the slides.
Well, Mrs. McCarn, do you want to just reiterate in case anyone else has joined the
No,
call?
I think it's definitely worth restating.
Okay, great. Mrs. McCarn, if you could just reiterate or clarify how or when will move up day be handled for kindergartners and first graders?
Okay, for traditional move up day, like we've always done it in the past, is done in person. Of course, this year we're not going to be able to do that. So the kids are going to be finding out who their teachers are on the 22nd of this month, so a week from Friday. And then we will be, each one of the teachers will be doing a welcome video that the families will be able to access and show their child so they can put a name and a face together. And so we're in very early stages of that because we were just finding out about this ourselves today, or yesterday and today. So there'll be more information to follow, but we really look forward to meeting your children. It's going to be weird not meeting them at this time of the year, but we will make it special as best we can with this online stuff. And we're excited to get to know them and see the little critters we got coming our way. And it'll be, make sure that they yell out to us and tell us who they are if they see us at Heinen's or wherever out and about this summer, because so many times somebody will say, "Hey, Mrs. McCarn." I'm like, I have no idea who you are. Hi. So reach out to us too, so we can start putting names and faces to them. So we're excited for that. That's very exciting to us at the beginning of the school year, just to see our new little buddies. But we're nervous too for it. But and this is a different way for us to handle move up day. But we'll figure it out and we'll make it as special as we can for everybody and continue that with them. So it's all good.
Great, thank you. Back to Mr. Sebring, and this is another popular question right now. And it's regarding all-day kindergarten. As many parents know, there's a tuition payment due June 1st for all-day kindergarten. And there have been some questions about, considering we don't know what's going to happen in the fall, there's a payment due June 1st. So we want to know if people are going to have an opportunity to hold off on that payment until we find out what's going on, especially people who may have been suffering some hardships, or postpone the payment.
Mm-hmm. Great question, and I've just those emails have just started to increase a little bit. So I do want to say that we will have a much better answer at the end of May in terms of that. We are still kind of thinking through and waiting on as much information as possible for next school year before making any big decisions. But I can appreciate that is an important question. We did invite all of the incoming kindergarten families to this presentation. So I want to just welcome them to Normandy as well. But I can tell you that just to stay tuned for your emails closer to the end of May, prior to the due date of the first tuition payment.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for Mrs. Reese. Since Safety Town was sadly canceled this year, is there a way that some of the topics can be covered next year by kindergarten teachers or possibly by the gym teacher in the fall? Some of the more sensitive topics that we want the kids to hear about as soon as possible.
Right, and that's a great question and a really good idea. We're considering how we can incorporate this into our school experience because the tradition of Safety Town will not be happening this summer. So we would ask that parents of incoming kindergarten students would definitely emphasize their own expectations of these topics during the summer. Specifically, we would want parents to teach how to safely cross the street and think through how they would teach their child about stranger danger. Then depending on the learning model we have to start next year, our kindergarten teachers may find themselves with very limited time to cover core curriculum, which could inhibit any opportunity to cover the Safety Town topics. One thing I can share for certain is that we will do everything we can to cover the school bus safety and everything associated with that.
Great, thank you. The last question I have is for Mr. Sebring. and it is, how is the district preparing to support everyone, including teachers, parents, and students, for the potential to continue distance learning in the fall?
Mhm. So in my office, I have a little Lego calendar, and I left it, still says March 13th. I refuse to change it because it's a reminder to me of the last time that the students were at Normandy. So um, I'm amazed by what the teachers on the whole have been able to accomplish in terms of their learning in such a brief time. I would say it was just a really steep learning curve in understanding how to teach, and how, even more important, how students learn in this type of environment. It's so important that we continue to study that and learn uh, how that we can best organize teaching, and how that students can best be taught, and receive the learning on their end if we're in this e-learning mode, especially in the K-2 world. So parents that have seen a Zoom call with your child's classroom, that it's interesting. There's a lot happening on the screen. Everybody's house is different. It's not the controlled environment of a classroom. There are many variables that cannot be controlled in those Zoom meetings. So we also understand the challenges of keeping kids engaged at home. We're trying to continue to study that. And I can tell you that something that may work in second grade, it may not work in kindergarten or first grade. The kids are truly developmentally different, significantly different between each of our grades. I can tell you that the affirming positive feedback that we have received from many, many families, as well as the constructive feedback that we've received from some parents, I can tell you that all of those things have been very, very helpful to us. It's great feedback, and whether it's constructive or whether it's just reinforcing things that we are already doing. So we appreciate that. And I can tell you that those pieces of feedback have and will continue to be considered. That those are really important to us. And I've heard you, and these are things that I've talked about with teacher teams multiple times as we continue to move forward. So on May 27, 28, and 29, we're planning 3 days of professional learning to further refine our approach to helping students start a new school year. I think finishing the school year has allowed, with these few months, has allowed us to learn a lot along the way. And I know that this is a pressing question for many families, and we really are going to take those last 3 days. We're going to free up our teachers just to really start to focus more and more on wrapping up this year, and also getting plans in order for next year. So I think this is a valuable time for us to further maximize opportunities with our own in-house experts, our technology coordinator, our curriculum director, and our own in-house teachers, who are just becoming more and more proficient and efficient at everything that they are doing to organize learning for your students. And I want to reemphasize the growth that I've seen in all the teachers, and I would say in all of the homes, how all of you in your homes are handling this situation. It's a huge learning curve for all of us. It's a new way of teaching. It's a new way of learning for students. And it's a new way of organizing schedules at home for you as parents, trying to still have 2 working parents at home, and the challenges that brings with your students trying to engage and learn at home. With the unknowns for next year, we will use the last 3 days in May to plan for the many different learning models that we may have next year, from a traditional start to a blended model, where there may be groupings of students that attend school at a time, to total e-learning, and as we take different direction and directives from the state.
Okay, thank you. That was all. Those were all the questions we had, and I'm sure if people have additional questions, Mr. Sebring will be happy to answer them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or your classroom teacher possibly as well, or Mrs. Basel. I think you have one more thing you want to make sure to remind everybody of as well, Mr. Sebring.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to make sure that you remember, save the date, May 26th. I tried to check the weather for May 26th, but it's a little far out there. So, but we are hoping it's a nice day for the Normandy staff. And keep in mind, it's the Wolf Road Wave. We want everybody to wave. We'll be out there for an hour. You could start at Westerly and work your way down Wolf Road. You'll see the high school staff, Glenview staff, middle school staff, and the best for last on the Normandy, for the Normandy part of the processional. So that will be Tuesday, May 26th from 10 to 11. We'd love to wave to you as you drive by. We are asking that not everybody stops. We do want traffic to keep moving. It's not a parade, so it is still a traffic flow. The city and the police are aware. They're all on board. They're excited for us and certainly supportive as we try to have just another special event for your students and the family. And then just stay tuned as we come up with more plans to really try to stay connected and reconnect with students to start next year. Okay. At this time, I do thank all of you. Thank you to my panel for participating this evening. Thank you, Normandy families. I hope you have a great night. Enjoy what's left of it. And we'll be in touch. We'll see you tomorrow on morning announcements. Thanks, everybody.